Arab Barghouthi. Welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. Let's start with, if we can, the extent to which this assault, this crazed assault on Gaza and in the West Bank is being opposed. I talked earlier about substantial losses suffered by the Israeli armed forces. And I've seen footage from Jenin, from Jericho, of Palestinians resisting the ethnic cleansing that's going on in the West Bank. Paint that picture for us, if you will.
Well, thank you so much, George, for having me again. And I think to start with, the Israeli government is clearly using the fact that everyone is busy with their slaughtering and massacres and genocide in Gaza to use that to do whatever they want in the West Bank. In the West Bank, things are getting worse every single day. In Jenin, we saw the raid of Jenin refugee camp and of Jenin city, and killing left, right, and center people. We saw the killing of children in the West Bank. We saw the detention of the mass detention and the arbitrary arrest of thousands of people since October the 7th in the West Bank, because I think the Israeli government is very clear about what they're doing against the Palestinians. They tried to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians in Gaza, and that didn't succeed because Egypt did not accept to open the borders. So they started with the genocide, and they thought that since the whole world is busy with Gaza, let us just complete our mission of the West Bank, because this is a project that has been happening for decades now. If you look at the settlements of the Israelis inside the West Bank, it's a clear proof that the Israeli government's purpose is to control the whole West Bank and to steal the land of the Palestinians and the Palestinian territories on the 67 borders. And I think it's worth mentioning that everyone is talking about Hamas charter, everyone is talking about their mentality, but no one is talking about the Likud charter. The Likud charter says clearly that there is no hope for a Palestinian state. They don't accept a Palestinian state. They don't accept our presence. The best that they can do is to let us just live inside the West Bank until they solve our problem, because we are a problem. They look at us as subhumans, as you know. And the last escalations in the West Bank is big proof. Just last night, they arrested 60 people. 5 of them were women, and many of them were children. And most of these people, they go to prison and they're not charged. No, they don't go to court, which is illegal by international law. And we agreed the last time that the Israeli slogan is illegal by international law, because the international law does not mean anything to them. And to be honest, it doesn't mean anything to us. I don't want to hear anyone speaking about international law, because it really doesn't make any difference, George. And we've seen that from the Israelis.
I supported the Oslo agreement, but maybe we can dispose of that in a sentence. It's dead now, isn't it?
I mean, if you talk to the young generation, they despise everyone who contributed into the Oslo Accords. I think that that's because we have been played by the Israelis in the Oslo Accords. Because what happened is that we agreed on something, then they killed their prime minister who agreed on that, which is Ishaq Rabin, which is a war criminal. But to be honest, he meant it when he wanted to give the Palestinians our own state. But it's dead now. And it's dead because in 96, if you remember, Netanyahu came into power for the first time as a prime minister. And he started with his a long project of building settlements to kill the two-state solution. So I don't think that there is a two-state solution anymore. If you look at the map and see how, the cities of the West Bank, like Ramallah and Bethlehem and all these cities, they made us think that we are the settlements in the Israeli land, not the other way around. They completely controlled 60 to 70% of the land, and they have security control of the rest of the land. So I don't think there is any hope for the two-state solution anymore, except if you pressure the Israeli government to withdraw totally from the West Bank, the settlements, the checkpoints, the military occupation, and to open the prison of Gaza. Otherwise, there is no hope for any two-state solution.
And on the principle that a surgeon cannot operate on his own foot, and given the opinion poll figures that I gave at the beginning of the show, where 1.8% of the people in Israel think that Israel is going too far in Gaza. 1.8%. In fact, the largest number think that it's not going far enough. You cannot expect any of that to come from Israel. Therefore, it can only come from the world leaders who are making these crimes possible. Isn't that right?
The Western governments are totally complicit in what's happening. And to be honest, I'm not shocked. I want to say I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked by the numbers. Because if you look at the Israeli history of politics, we have never had an Israeli prime minister that has been voted for that doesn't have a record of war crimes. All of them. If you look at Ariel Sharon, Ehud Barak, Netanyahu, Ishaq Rabin, Shimon Peres, they all have blood on their hands. Palestinian children, blood on their hands. And I think that the Israeli people, unfortunately, enabled their leaders to feed them all the lies and the brainwash that they are getting about the Palestinians. They all think that the Palestinians are the problem. They think that we want to kill them. They think all of these crazy things that I think you can see that they are familiar to the apartheid regime of South Africa, of the Irish people, of every single oppressed people that has been in history. Because what you do is that you feed them with lies, you feed them with fear, you let them fear the other side, you dehumanize the other side to the point where you have less than 2%, as you mentioned, say that killing thousands and thousands of children in 2 months is too far. Only 2%. Like you have 98% of the Israeli people that think that it's okay to kill children, it's okay to kill women, because their safety and their security comes from that. But if they learn anything from history, the violence cycle will never end by that. It will never end by violence. It will end only by political solutions and by giving the Palestinian people our own state and our own independence. And that's how we will give them their security. Without that, we will keep resisting, because it's only a human nature to resist the oppression.
Let's look then at the other alternatives. Ethnic cleansing of Gaza and of the West Bank require both Egypt and Jordan to absorb the huge numbers, millions of Palestinians into their own states, in the Egyptian case, into the desert of Sinai. And secondly, it depends on the Palestinians actually going, leaving, running away, as happened in the original Nakba. Now, I don't think that either of those two possibilities is there. I don't think Egypt or Jordan could afford to open their gates for refugees, millions of refugees, and I don't think that the Palestinians would agree to flee to these two countries. What's your view on that?
My view is very clear, and I think the brave people of Gaza has made it very clear, which is, if we have two options, to die on our land or to leave, we're going to die on our land. And that's not an option. If you look at the Nakba and what happened in 1948 and the displacement of 700,000 people, they are now 7 million people. And most of them are living in a very harsh conditions in many countries, in refugee camps and all of that. And they have no right to return. And this is the most important point, because if we don't have a right to return to Palestine, I'm sure that Palestinians will feel that we have nothing to live for. what's the purpose of life if we can't live in our homeland that have been our home for centuries and centuries? And I think that it's only arrogant, it's a white supremacist mentality, it's a colonial mentality to even discuss the displacement of the Palestinian people. They should be apologizing for the Palestinians for what they have been doing to us and the oppression that has been practiced on us, rather than to suggest such ironic suggestions. It's not going to happen. We're not leaving, even if anyone opens the borders. I don't think the Egyptians nor the Jordanians or any other country will open the borders, because that would be the assassination of the Palestinian cause. And this cause will never die. We're staying in our land, and we will have our freedom and our independence one day.
Give my salam to your parents. Thank you for joining us again. Arab Barghouthi, speaking on behalf of the Palestinian people. Would that he was allowed to do so on the so-called mainstream media.